All right, good afternoon. My name is Mark Gonyea, and I am giving my presentation for Education 751, Professional Composition Studies. And my topic today is the causes for teacher attrition. With me today I have Cole Wise, who is a special ed department chair at Smyrna High School. And along with me also I have Sherry Sutherland, who is an assistant principal at Smyrna High School as well. So, one of the problems that we are running into in the United States is there's a real shortage of teachers in the United States. Studies show that the problem is not that we have too few teachers that are being produced, but rather school staffing problems are a large extent to the satisfaction of teachers staying in the profession, or called a revolving door. Data indicates that a great deal of teachers leave the profession long before their retirement. And almost 50% of new teachers leave within the first 5 years of their teaching. And so, are beginning teachers finding out that the art of teaching is more challenging than they expected, or are they beginning teachers experiencing difficulties in the profession to reach beyond the scope of their preparation while in school? So what I'm saying is, are teachers leaving because they find the profession, the art of what they're teaching, too challenging, or is it the school structure itself that's just not as satisfying for them? One of the things that I found as I was reading was teacher education does not end when the teacher candidates complete their bachelor education degree. So that's going to be one of the things that we'll focus on here. So when I looked at my literature review, one of the first things I looked at is, are teacher shortages a reality, or is it just a conception that a lot of people are seeing? Well, so when looking at actual data, teacher shortages are not related to the number of new teachers entering the field. As a matter of fact, new research is correcting those misconceptions. The problem with teacher shortages is not the number of teachers entering the field, but that a lot of teachers are just having struggles overcoming those first few years of teaching and find other professions to go into long before they ever retire from the profession. And once again, this concept is referred to as the revolving door, in which teachers are either leaving at a faster rate of entering the field, or at a greater rate than what the teachers are entering the field. So then I asked the question, why are new teachers leaving the field? Well, one of the things I read in there was teachers leave the profession for a range of reasons, including better salaries, working conditions, and the promise of intrinsic rewards in other professions. One of the things that I found in here that was really interesting was that the better salaries, yes, it is a factor, but it is not the only factor, and it's not one of the biggest factors. New teachers find that work conditions and personal satisfactions are highly important. So that's one of the biggest reasons why they're leaving. They know coming into the profession how much they're going to make. So the salary concept is really not something that's majorly on the radar. Work, motivation, and commitment have less to do with personal qualities of people bringing to the workplace than with the design and management of the tasks within. So without the knowledge of one how successfully performs, there's little reason for self-congratulation. So in other words, teachers are coming into this profession not necessarily knowing what is expected of them when they come in. And if they don't know what's expected of them, they don't know whether or not they're doing a good job. And another big thing is that teachers, they find that the feeling of isolation is a big problem with teachers. The reason why they say that is because a lot of teachers were given their keys, shown to their room, said, come on into your room and go ahead and perform, and hopefully at the end of the year test scores are up, with no interaction in the interim between that. And other organizational factors that contribute to the attrition of new teachers were identified with a lack of support from administrators. Administrators are overwhelmed, so they don't get a chance to spend as much time with their new teachers as they'd like. Student discipline issues are a huge issue, and then the lack of input and decision-making powers. So in other words, teachers feel like they're given their stuff and they really have no say in what they're going to be doing. So another thing that I wanted to look at was, well, since we are losing teachers, what's the big deal? What are the effects? Well, the effects are a little bit bigger than what we think. According to the work of Honishek, the difference between being taught by a highly capable or less than capable teacher can translate into a full grade of level of achievement in a single school year. So in other words, if we've got teachers that have been teaching longer than 5 years, and then we got this pool of teachers that have only been teaching for a year or two, and we just keep cycling through those, the efficacy of those students reaching higher levels of achievement goes way down when those teachers are in the profession for less than 5 years. It has also found that students have similar achievement levels can differ greatly based on the chain of new teachers they receive. So you might have some students that go through a whole chain of teachers where they're blessed with a group of teachers that have been in the profession for 10 or 15 years, and they just keep going down the line with that. But then you get another student who every year gets a brand new teacher, and all of a sudden their achievement scores are greatly affected. Several studies also indicate that when new teachers last beyond the first 5 years of their career, they become highly effective teachers. Why? Because they've been able to outlast some of the problems that a lot of new teachers face, and then they can start focusing on actually teaching their curriculum, and they get into the swing of things in the school year and how to manage a classroom and how to do all those different things that a lot of times they don't get that preparation for in college. This is one of the things that I found staggering too. The cost of a teacher turnover study found that in rural areas, the cost of losing a teacher was in the range of $10,000, while in more urban settings, that cost went up to $15,000 to $26,000 a year. So if school districts are so tight on money, you would figure that this might be one area that they might want to start focusing some of their attention on, because of the fact if you lose all this money on losing teachers, then you could actually save quite a bit of money by keeping them in the profession. And also, the education of at-risk students in schools districts was adversely affected by the attrition of new teachers. So in other words, these at-risk students probably need somebody that they can trust, somebody that they can rely on, but if they constantly are seeing new faces, it's a really, really tough situation for them to find somebody that can actually make them feel like they're in a comfortable place. And then schools in urban districts serving disadvantaged students do have higher turnover. So these larger school districts, like a Memphis or a Nashville, where you have high urban populations, they have a higher turnover rate, and that generally is leading to a greater share of teachers with little or no experience. So if these larger school districts that are in urban populations are worried about their achievement of students, they may want to not necessarily focus on curriculum, but maybe necessarily focus on keeping good teachers in the school district and helping those teachers cultivate and become better teachers. So what are some of the viable solutions for the retention of quality teachers? At the local school level, there's nothing we can do but control about salary. So what we need to do is we need to focus on the factors that we can make an impact on. An assistant principal or a principal can't look at somebody and go, you know what, I think you're a great teacher, so I'm going to offer you $10,000 more. We just can't do that. But we can focus on the person, and we can say, you know what, I may not be able to offer you more money, but I can sure make sure that you enjoy working here every day when you come to this place. Policy issues related to teacher retention fall into the broad categories of supply and satisfaction, ensuring that the personnel pipeline is adequate to keep with the demand, and providing working conditions that will keep teachers happy enough to remain in the profession. So when you look at this, what it's saying is that there's a plenty supply of teachers coming through, but if we want to keep them and we want to cultivate them and make them better teachers, we better do something about making sure that they're satisfied while they're in our building. Since beginning, teachers indicate that work conditions and personal satisfaction are major contributors and to their willingness to stay in the course of teaching education, schools must develop systems to ensure these needs are met. And one of the key things that you can do is a really, really strong mentorship induction program. It's not enough for a school to assign somebody a mentor and then forget about it and leave it alone and say, we did our job, we wash our hands of it. This teacher now has a mentor. No, this needs to be something that is deliberate, something that is planned, something that is ongoing, and something that the school insists on making sure that new teachers do not feel left alone and can have questions answered to them at any given moment. So the research questions that I posed from reading the literature. First question, what are the factors that are contributing to the loss of beginning teachers leaving the new profession? Even though they've indicated that satisfaction was one of those areas, we need to drill down and find out what does it mean? What are the areas of satisfaction that we as a school can make an impact on? And if teacher attrition is a real problem, then what affects our schools and students feeling from this exodus of potential highly effective teachers? So yes, we see that there's a financial impact, but what else is impacting in the schools? And then what can school districts do to ensure that the best possible recruits to the profession feel compelled to stay the course of their chosen profession? So that should be a goal of the school district. And if it is the goal of the school district, what can they actually do? So my methodology, the purpose of this study again, was that 50% of all new teachers leave with the profession within their first 5 years of practice, so we need to do something about that. And again, many speculate this phenomenon exists. This study is seeking out to determine some of the common factors that contribute to the staggering loss. And if there are indeed common factors that can be addressed at the local level, especially in the school building itself, then those factors should be addressed. So my null hypothesis. There are no common factors among teachers leaving the profession that are addressable by the school district or school administration. And the other one is schools that experience a higher level of retention have no measurable gain in student achievement. So my research design. This quantitative study examined the expectations of pre-service teachers and compared those expectations to the expectations of principals who hired them. So basically what I'm looking at here is I'm looking at, do teachers come into the profession with a different set of expectations than the principals have for them when they walk into the building? And if there is a disparaging gap between those two items, how can we close that gap and get teachers, new teachers, to understand what's expected of them? And also, are the expectations of administrators realistic for these new teachers coming out of college? Based on, do we know that they've had enough preparation to do the tasks that our administrators are asking them to do? And the study also examined the attitudes of teachers who served less than 5 years to determine factors that contributed to the reason for leaving the profession. So trying to quantify the reasons to see what was the most highly selected items for reasons for leaving the profession. And also, in order to quantify the qualitative nature of the opinions of teachers, a Likert scale was used with educators and administrators alike. And then this data was used to determine a prioritized set of concerns that can indeed be addressed easily by a local school. There were several items addressed in that, but if we can look at just the top 5 of them and maybe make an impact on those top 5, we might start seeing our schools retaining more teachers. Operational definitions: a pre-service teacher is basically a teacher who has not been hired yet or has been hired and has not served a full year in a school. And a post-service teacher, a person who has left the profession of teaching before entering their 6th year of teaching. Principal or administrator is a person responsible for the hiring and development of teachers. And contributing factors, those items that form the opinions of satisfaction or the lack thereof in the duties and responsibilities of a teacher. So basically those are the categories. So the research participants in studying for the study. All pre-service teachers in the school district were asked to participate in the study. Administrators that hired new teachers with less than 5 years of service were asked to participate in the study as well. And finally, all post-service teachers were asked to participate in the study as well, contacting those teachers through the Board of Education's database, asking to see if we could contact those teachers and voluntarily give us information. And the research setting for this study is a growing school district in Middle Tennessee. The school district serves both rural and urban communities, and the school district serves over 42,000 students with over 3,000 teachers. So my research variables: the independent variables were those in the study were the respondents to the Likert scale surveys, and the dependent variables would be their answers to those. Data collection procedures. So the data was collected through 2 different instruments, 2 separate times. The first instrument was a pre-service expectations Likert scale survey given both to pre-service teachers and to administrators to see if there was any kind of gap between what pre-service teachers were expecting their job to be and what administrators were expecting their job to be. And at the conclusion of the school year, the same group of pre-service teachers were given the same expectation survey they took before the beginning of the year in order to ascertain, did their concept of what they should know, what their job expectations were, did it change over the course of the year? Did they have different expectations of what they should know toward the end of the year? And then all principals that hired new pre-service teachers were asked to complete the surveys with their pre-service teachers as well. And the second instrument that was used was another Likert scale survey that was given to teachers who voluntarily left the profession before completing 5 full years of service. And the school district provided the researcher with the names of those teachers who were contacted and asked to voluntarily complete the survey. And with the names provided by the school district, each potential participant was sent an email with an online version of the Likert scale survey. So for data analysis, Pre-service surveys were quantified to compare the expectation levels of pre-service teachers